Vikings wore horned helmets. One of history's most famous myths is that Viking warriors wore helmets with large horns. In reality, archaeologists have never found evidence that Viking soldiers used horned helmets in battle. Horns would have made helmets heavier, less practical, and easier for enemies to grab during combat. The idea became popular in the 19th century when costume designers created dramatic Viking outfits for operas and paintings. Those fictional images spread through books, movies, and television until many people accepted them as historical fact. Real Vikings usually wore simple iron helmets or fought without helmets at all. This myth shows how entertainment can sometimes become more influential than archaeology. Napoleon was extremely short. Many people believe Napoleon Bonaparte was unusually short, but this is largely a misunderstanding. Historical records suggest he was around 5 feet 6 or 7 inches, about 168 to 170 centimeters, which was close to the average height for French men of his time. The confusion came from differences between French and British measurement systems, along with British propaganda that portrayed him as tiny to make him appear less powerful. Paintings also often showed him standing beside unusually tall soldiers, making him seem smaller. Today, the phrase Napoleon complex is widely known, but historians generally agree that Napoleon's height was not extraordinary for the early 1800s. Columbus discovered America. Christopher Columbus is often described as the man who discovered America, but this oversimplifies history. Millions of indigenous people had lived across North and South America for thousands of years before Columbus arrived in 1492. In addition, Norse explorer Leif Erikson reached parts of North America around the year 1000, centuries before Columbus. What Columbus actually did was establish lasting contact between Europe and the Americas, beginning an era of exploration, trade, colonization, and major cultural change. While his voyages were historically significant, they were not the discovery of an empty continent. Modern historians emphasize the broader historical context rather than the traditional simplified story. Medieval people thought Earth was flat. A common myth claims that people during the Middle Ages believed the Earth was flat until Columbus proved otherwise. In fact, educated Europeans had known the Earth was spherical since ancient Greek times. Scholars such as Aristotle and Eratosthenes provided evidence centuries before the Middle Ages. Medieval universities taught that the Earth was round, and sailors used this understanding in navigation. Columbus himself did not set out to prove Earth's shape. He simply underestimated its size while searching for a western route to Asia. The flat Earth story became popular much later through books and popular culture rather than historical evidence. Witches were burned in Salem. Many people believe the victims of the 1692 Salem witch trials were burned at the stake, but that did not happen. In Salem, Massachusetts, 19 people were executed by hanging, and one man was pressed to death with heavy stones after refusing to enter a plea. Burning witches was more common in parts of continental Europe, not colonial New England. The Salem trials remain one of history's best-known examples of mass hysteria, fear, and false accusations. The events eventually led to legal reforms because authorities recognized how dangerous unreliable evidence and public panic could become during criminal investigations. Einstein failed math. Albert Einstein is often said to have failed mathematics as a child, but this story is false. Historical school records show that he performed very well in mathematics and physics from an early age. By the age of 15, he had already mastered advanced topics that many university students study. The myth likely began because people misunderstood changes in grading systems used by his school. Einstein himself later denied ever failing mathematics, saying he had mastered differential and integral calculus before turning 15. The real lesson from his life is not that failure leads to genius, but that deep curiosity, persistence, and independent thinking helped him become one of history's greatest scientists. Great Wall is visible from space. Many people have heard that the Great Wall of China is the only human-made structure visible from space. In reality, astronauts have repeatedly explained that this is not true. The wall is relatively narrow and often blends into the surrounding landscape, making it extremely difficult to see with the naked eye from low Earth orbit. Many cities, highways, airports, and large agricultural areas are actually easier to spot because they create stronger visual contrast. The myth became popular long before humans traveled into space, and continued spreading through textbooks and popular media despite scientific corrections from astronauts. Marie Antoinette said, "Let them eat cake." French Queen Marie Antoinette is widely believed to have responded to reports of starving people by saying, "Let them eat cake." However, historians have found no reliable evidence that she ever spoke those words. The quote appeared in writings by philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau before Marie Antoinette even became Queen of France. During the French Revolution, political propaganda portrayed her as uncaring and extravagant, making the quote a powerful symbol despite lacking historical proof. Today, historians view it as one of history's most successful examples of misinformation that permanently shaped the reputation of a famous historical figure. Rome fell overnight. People often imagine the Roman Empire collapsing suddenly in a single dramatic event. In reality, the decline of the Western Roman Empire happened gradually over centuries. Economic problems, political instability, military defeats, corruption, population changes, and invasions by various groups slowly weakened the empire. Although the year 476 AD is commonly marked as the fall of Western Rome, many Roman traditions, institutions, and laws continued influencing Europe long afterward. The Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, survived for nearly another 1,000 years. Rome's story demonstrates that civilizations usually decline through long-term processes rather than overnight disaster. Pyramids built by slaves. A long-standing misconception is that Egypt's pyramids were built entirely by slaves. Modern archaeological discoveries suggest that most workers were skilled laborers who were paid, fed, and housed near the construction site. Excavations have uncovered workers' villages, bakeries, medical facilities, and tombs, indicating that these builders were respected members of society rather than enslaved laborers. Building the pyramids required advanced engineering, organization, and thousands of trained workers over many years. While forced labor existed in ancient Egypt in different forms, the evidence does not support the popular image of massive slave armies constructing the Great Pyramid. This discovery has significantly changed historians' understanding of one of humanity's greatest engineering achievements.